This is Mr. Kennedy back with a video on Protists. This is the origin of eukaryotic diversity. Now, there's some general characteristics about Protists. Protists are eukaryotes. That means they have a nucleus, but they are not animals, plants, or fungi, which are the other three groups of eukaryotes. Protist diversity, there is a large gamut of Protist diversity. They can be unicellular or multicellular. They can be autotrophic or heterotrophic. They can reproduce sexually or asexually. Some are beneficial, some are pathogenic, some are sessile, which means they do not move, and some are mobile, which means they move. When we talk about the mobility of protists, then they can move by a flagellum, which is a long hair-like structure at the back, a whip-like structure that moves. Cilia, which are tiny hairs. Now let me show you the difference in these two. This one would be a flagellum here. This actually has two flagella. And cilia would be like this paramecium here that has little tiny hairs all around it. And then pseudopod. Pseudopod would be like this amoeba down here at the bottom, in which it sticks out a foot, a false foot, reaches up, grabs, and pulls. So that would be the three types of locomotion. And when we talk about protists, there are three different ways in which they can get nutrition. They can do ingestion, which then they consume another organism, be animal-like, right? So that would be like an amoeba, which eats food and surrounds it. They can get it through absorption. They can actually grow on top of something and absorb the nutrients from it. So that's fungus-like. And then they can be photosynthetic, which means they are plant-like, in which they have like an algae or a kelp. Okay. And we talk about protists, we have to talk about the endosymbiontic theory. Now, we've already mentioned it earlier, but I thought it'd be good to go over it again. Basically the theory talks about how chloroplast and mitochondria got infused into eukaryotic cells. And the belief is that you had this aerobic bacteria that was ingested. The mitochondria, right, was the aerobic bacteria that was ingested, and the eukaryotic cell did not break it down. So it allowed for this aerobic bacteria to continue to live inside of it in a symbiotic relationship in which it provided the raw materials, and then in return this aerobic bacteria provided energy for the eukaryotic cell. Later on down the stages, you had this same eukaryotic cell that had the mitochondria engulf a chloroplast, which was a photosynthetic bacteria, and the chloroplast gave energy and glucose to the eukaryotic cell in return for allowing it to carry to other places. So this is kind of what the endosymbiontic theory does, and it was by Lynn Margulis, and it does have some evidence. Structurally, the mitochondria and chloroplast, if you remember, they resemble bacteria in structure. Genetically, mitochondria and chloroplast have their own DNA, and it's circular, just like prokaryotes were. And functionally, mitochondria and chloroplast actually reproduce independently of the cell, so they can do their own reproduction, and they can move freely within the cell itself. So just remember the endosymbiontic theory. Now, when we talk about diversity of protists, there's two main groups. The phytoplankton, which are small algae-like protists, and about 90% of all atmospheric oxygen is made from these phytoplankton. They are vital for life on Earth. Then you have the zooplankton. The zooplankton, they resemble animals, right? They're heterotrophic. And the zooplankton, the importance is they're beginning in a lot of, or they are found in a lot of food webs that are found in the oceans and marine ecosystems. So these are the two. Phytoplanktons are more like the plants, the algae. The zooplankton more like the animals. Now, I'm going to briefly go through each little branch of protist. I don't expect you to remember all of the information, but just give you some ideas of what it is. The first group is your Giardia, which are a group that lack mitochondria. They're believed to be the earliest protist, and they are eukaryotic, of course. You have your euglenoids, which can be autotrophic or heterotrophic, and they have flagellants. They have flagella. All right. Then you have your alveolata, which are membrane-bound cavities. They have cavities under the surface. They're like your dinoflagellates. All right. Then you have your stamen of phylla, which, if you remember, a stamen is the male part of a flower, right? Produces pollen. They have flagella, which allow them to move. They can be of different shapes. You can have like the diatoms, the golden diatoms over at the top. They're like your kelps. You have rhydophyta, which are red algae, and you have your chlorophyta, which are your green algae. Now, the chlorophyta, I think, is so neat. These volvox down here in the bottom, if you ever see a video of them actually moving, I think it's just so neat. Then you have rhizopods and actinopods. Rhizopods are going to be unicellular, and they're going to use that pseudopod, amoeba-like movement. Then you have actinopods, which are going to have a ray-like foot, which is going to move. The actinopods are on the right down here at the bottom, and the rhizopods is over here on the left. And then you have your mycetozoa, which is like your slime molds, which is a picture down here at the bottom, which use pseudopoda movement and cellular slime molds. Anyway, I hope this gives you a brief introduction into protists, and I hope all of you have a wonderful, wonderful day.